Do you know who else strives and is great in comfort and repetitive tasks? You probably heard that. It's AI. It's robotics. In factories, they do one task 24/7. That comfortable task, they are doing that. Do you need to be worried about that? Let's find out.
When people hear that AI is coming for jobs, the first reaction is usually fear mixed with disbelief, because it sounds dramatic and distant at the same time. Most people don't imagine robots replacing everyone overnight. They imagine AI affecting factories, warehouses, or highly technical roles. What almost no one expected is that the first real pressure would hit the most comfortable jobs, not the hardest ones. These aren't jobs people hated or wanted to escape. They're jobs that paid well, felt stable, and rewarded experience more than physical effort. Office roles with predictable schedules, clear responsibilities, and manageable stress once felt like the safest place to be. Many of these positions were built around organizing information, reviewing work, coordinating people, and making incremental decisions. For decades, that skill set was valuable precisely because it required judgment, communication, and experience. Those roles weren't flashy, but they were reliable. They offered steady income, benefits, and a sense that you were insulated from disruption. That sense of insulation is now breaking down. AI doesn't need to replace an entire job to change it. It only needs to automate the most repetitive, time-consuming, or predictable parts. Once that happens, the role shrinks, expectations rise, and headcount quietly declines. No mass layoffs are announced, but hiring slows, promotions disappear, and teams get smaller. People still have jobs, but the ladder above them vanishes. This is why the impact feels confusing rather than dramatic. From the outside, everything looks normal. Inside organizations, fewer people are doing more work, faster, with less margin for error. The pressure doesn't fall evenly across the workforce. It concentrates on roles that were designed for efficiency, not scarcity. Jobs that involve summarizing, reporting, scheduling, drafting, reviewing, or coordinating are suddenly exposed. AI performs these tasks well enough to change expectations overnight. What used to take a full day now takes minutes. Management doesn't always say it out loud, but the math becomes obvious. If one person can now do the work of two or three, the definition of fully staffed changes. These jobs aren't disappearing because they're useless. They're disappearing because they became too efficient. Comfort was built on the assumption that time and human effort were scarce. AI breaks that assumption without breaking the system. This is why the disruption feels quiet instead of catastrophic. No single role looks essential enough to defend, but together they formed a stable middle. As that middle thins, the workforce polarizes. Some jobs become more valuable, others become fragile. In the next part, we'll look at why hard jobs are actually safer than comfortable ones right now. The jobs people assume are most vulnerable to AI are often the ones that turn out to be the most resilient. Physically demanding, unpredictable, and hands-on work resists automation far more than clean digital office tasks. A plumber, electrician, or HVAC technician deals with unique problems every day that don't follow a neat script. These jobs require judgment in messy, real-world environments where conditions change constantly. AI struggles when the problem isn't fully defined and the context can't be neatly digitized. Comfort, ironically, was built on predictability. Office jobs optimized for efficiency created workflows that AI can now copy and accelerate. Hard jobs never had that luxury. They rely on improvisation, physical presence, and accountability in the real world. If something breaks, someone has to show up and fix it. You can't outsource gravity, weather, or aging infrastructure to an algorithm. These roles also carry responsibility that can't be abstracted away easily. When a mistake happens, the consequences are immediate and visible. That makes full automation risky and expensive. Comfortable jobs often involved low stakes, repetition spread across many workers. AI thrives in exactly that environment. It doesn't get tired, bored, or distracted by routine tasks. Once trained, it applies the same logic perfectly every time. Hard jobs, by contrast, deal with edge cases constantly. No two job sites, patients, or repairs are exactly the same. Even skilled automation struggles when variability is the norm. This flips traditional assumptions about status and safety. White-collar comfort no longer guarantees security. Blue-collar skill now carries unexpected leverage. Wages in many skilled trades are rising as demand outpaces supply. Meanwhile, some office roles face downward pressure despite high education requirements. The market is rewarding scarcity, not credentials. Jobs that can't be easily scaled by software retain bargaining power. Comfort was a byproduct of systems that assumed humans were the bottleneck. AI removes that bottleneck in digital work, but not in physical reality. This is why disruption feels upside down to many workers. The roles people once looked down on are becoming more secure. The ones people aspired to feel suddenly fragile. In the next part, we'll examine how companies are restructuring around this shift. Most companies aren't announcing that AI is replacing workers. They're restructuring in ways that make the change feel gradual and almost invisible. Instead of layoffs, they freeze hiring, reduce backfills, and quietly let attrition do the work over time. Teams that once needed 10 people now operate with 7. Not because demand dropped, but because tools improved. The work still gets done, just faster, and with fewer humans involved. This allows companies to say productivity is up while headcount stays flat or declines. Managers are encouraged to do more with less, and AI becomes the justification that makes it possible. Job descriptions quietly change, even if titles don't. Roles now expect higher output, broader skills, and faster turnaround without additional pay. What used to be considered a full workload becomes the new minimum. Employees aren't replaced directly. They're stretched until some burn out or leave. When someone quits, their responsibilities are absorbed by AI tools and remaining staff. Over time, entire layers of work disappear without ever being formally eliminated. Middle roles are hit hardest because they often sit between decision-making and execution. AI handles execution faster, while leadership retains control over decisions. That squeezes the middle from both sides. Junior roles also change because there's less routine work left to learn on. Entry-level positions once trained people through repetition. AI now performs that repetition instantly, removing a key learning pathway. This creates a strange paradox where companies want experienced workers but reduce the jobs that create experience. Training shifts from gradual skill building to rapid self-teaching under pressure. Those who adapt quickly survive. Those who don't quietly fall behind. Performance reviews start to compare humans to AI-enhanced output, not past human standards. Expectations rise without acknowledgement that the baseline has shifted. The definition of high performer quietly changes. Being competent is no longer enough. You must be fast, flexible, and AI-assisted. Comfort disappears, not because the work is harder, but because there's no slack left in the system. Jobs become less forgiving of mistakes and slower learning curves. Stability erodes, even when employment remains technically intact. From the outside, companies look efficient and healthy. Inside, roles feel tighter, faster, and more fragile. This restructuring isn't malicious, it's rational, under competitive pressure. But rational systems don't always produce humane outcomes. The result is a workforce that feels constantly evaluated and easily replaceable. In the next part, we'll look at which roles actually gain power in this new environment. As AI compresses comfortable roles, power doesn't disappear. It concentrates in fewer, more specific positions. Jobs that combine judgment, accountability, and real-world impact become harder to replace and more valuable. Decision-makers who define goals rather than execute tasks gain leverage. People who can translate messy human problems into clear constraints still matter deeply. Roles that own outcomes, not just processes, rise in importance. In technical fields, this favors architects over operators. In business, it favors strategists over coordinators. In creative work, it favors editors, curators, and directors over producers. The common thread is responsibility for the final result. AI can generate options, but it can't own consequences. Someone still has to decide what's acceptable, ethical, or on-brand. That responsibility carries risk, and risk creates value. Hands-on roles also gain power for a different reason. Skilled trades, healthcare, and fieldwork remain scarce because they require presence and trust. These workers operate in environments AI can't fully control. Scarcity plus necessity equals bargaining power. Another group quietly gaining leverage are people who know how to work with AI effectively. Not programmers necessarily, but operators who integrate AI into workflows intelligently. They become multipliers rather than replaceable parts. This creates a new dividing line inside white-collar work. Those who treat AI as a threat fall behind those who treat it as infrastructure. Comfort once came from specialization within stable systems. Power now comes from adaptability across unstable ones. Generalists who can connect domains regain relevance. People who can't be easily measured by output volume survive better. Soft skills become harder and more valuable. Trust, judgment, and communication gain weight as automation increases. Ironically, the more advanced technology becomes, the more human differentiation matters. Comfortable jobs faded because they minimized friction. Valuable jobs retain friction by design. This shift is uncomfortable, but not random. It rewards responsibility, scarcity, and adaptability. In the final part, we'll ask how individuals can respond without chasing false safety. The biggest mistake in this transition is trying to protect comfort instead of building resilience. Comfortable jobs felt safe because they were predictable, not because they were indispensable. AI thrives on predictability, which means safety has quietly changed definitions. Staying relevant now requires leaning into work that can't be neatly optimized away. That means owning outcomes instead of tasks. If your role can be reduced to a checklist, it's vulnerable. If your role requires judgment under uncertainty, it's harder to replace. Learning to work with AI matters more than competing against it. People who treat AI as a tool expand their impact rather than shrink it. This doesn't require deep technical skill, but it does require curiosity and adaptation. Another key is exposure to the real world. Jobs connected to physical systems, customers, or direct consequences retain value. Distance from reality often equals replaceability. Building cross-functional skills also matters. Narrow expertise inside a shrinking role increases risk. Broader understanding creates flexibility when roles change. Career planning becomes less about climbing ladders and more about staying useful. Titles matter less than leverage. Comfort used to come from stability. Now it comes from being difficult to remove. This shift is unsettling because it removes familiar signals of success. But it also opens paths that were previously undervalued. Skilled trades, applied expertise, and decision-making roles gain respect and compensation. The workforce polarizes, but opportunity doesn't disappear, it replicates. AI isn't taking all jobs. It's taking the ones that relied on routine wrapped in comfort. The future belongs to people who can navigate uncertainty, not avoid it. Stability now comes from adaptability, not protection. The question isn't how to keep your job the same, it's how to make yourself valuable when the job changes.